Hey everybody, it's Tommy Canale and welcome back to Before the Lights podcast, the show that tells you how they made their mark. A songwriter, producer, and award-winning composer for television and film. His music has been used for video games, promos, scores, along with film and TV. He worked on the production and sound development for rapper NF, originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and now a resident of Nashville, Tennessee. He has worked with major networks such as Fox, VH1, ESPN, and let me tell you people, a whole slew of others. Please welcome to the show, Tommee Profitt. Tommy, how are you, my man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me.
Is your first memory of music at age 7 when you received a keyboard for Christmas, or is it even before then?
Yeah, I would say that's my first memory. You've obviously looked that up somewhere. I actually had no prior interest to music until my parents bought me that keyboard when I was 7. And I think they were just like, oh, it's a toy that makes noise. You put batteries in it. Kids love toys that make noise. And then all of a sudden they were like, whoa, he is like nonstop playing on that thing. And they couldn't get me off of it. So 30 years later, and I'm still pounding on the piano, you know?
How then, if you had no interest in music and then you get that, kind of explain to my listeners how your love of music then has grown and evolved.
Yeah, man. I think I was just mesmerized by it. I don't think I even knew about pianos probably before that. You know, I might have seen like an old dusty piano in my grandma's house and you weren't allowed to touch it, you know, because that makes sense. Why have a piano if you couldn't touch it? But I was like, whoa, I'm allowed to touch this one. I can play this one. And I think as I was like figuring out how just notes and intervals worked, and I would listen to songs I heard on TV and stuff and try to plunk them out and figure them out by ear, you know? And I just became enamored by that because then I realized, whoa, I could like make my own songs. And I probably played thousands of songs for my parents every day. Like, Mom, listen, Mom, watch, Mom, watch. And now my 8-year-old son does the same thing to me. So it comes around, I guess.
How young were you when you started producing your own music? At what age do you remember?
I probably started like recording when I was 11 or 12, like my own music. And it was just instrumental music. And I was, you know, it was actually pretty cinematic back in the day in hindsight, right? Like there was always that movie element of it with strings and piano and, you know, choirs, even though back then they sounded a lot worse. You know, it was very synthetic MIDI back in the day, right? Now it's like MIDI has come so far. It's incredible. You can control real orchestras, right? Mm-hmm. But back then it was like, you know, you had 128 general MIDI sounds and like, that's all I had to play with. But I would record albums and sell them to my friends at school and, you know, for like $2 or $3. I was just always like making music, always selling music, trying to make new albums. I always had projects I was doing. Like that was just something that became a part of my life pretty early on, you know?
What kind of challenges did you have music wise growing up in an area of like Grand Rapids that's not real known for its history of lineage of music?
Right. Well, I grew up actually on the Detroit side of Michigan.
Okay.
And then I moved to Grand Rapids when I was about 20, and I went to school there. I got married there, lived there for about 10 years, you know, before I moved to Nashville. So I kind of had both sides of the state of Michigan, you know, covered. But honestly, I think pretty much wherever you are, I think you could like make a splash on the music scene locally, right? If you kind of become known as like the music guy in town, you know, people will call on you for things whenever they need music. And I think I worked really hard to try to become known like synonymously with music. So whenever anyone needed a recording or a piano player or whatever, they would call me. And, you know, that was a form of business, I guess, at an early age I was trying to establish, you know?
I'm going to get to the studio you have now in Nashville. Did you also build yourself a studio in Grand Rapids as well?
Yeah. In my basement, I converted my basement into a studio. That was my like first actual studio that I built, if you want to call it that.
Your current studio is phenomenal. I'm going to put a link in the show notes, people, to the YouTube video. The vibe, the look, complete with the life-size Iron Man. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, man. I think what's funny is I tell people this, when I was like, 12 years old and I was making those albums, I was like sitting in my parents' unfinished cement basement, and I had my headphones on, all the lights were off except for the screen of the computer in front of me. And I was just working for hours. I would stay up till 3-4 in the morning. Like it was like a cave, right? My own cave. And so I think after all these years, it's funny because now fast forward, 25 years, I wanted to recreate that atmosphere that I was just comfortable in. So I was like, man, I need to make something that feels like a bat cave, something that's dark, that I can, I have windows in here, but people barely see them because I have blackout curtains and blackout shades and, Philips Hue bulbs, they'll make any space look cool.
Right.
Basically.
Speak about the days of the Tommee Profitt Band and playing in concert and touring.
Yeah, that's an era of my life that not a lot of people even know about, which is funny because for me, those 12, 13 years of my life. I mean, we were traveling and touring all over the country, playing over 100 times a year at all kinds of different places and recording albums. We would drive around in a 15-passenger van, pull a trailer of sound equipment, eat Little Caesars pizza, sleep in the van. Like it was that kind of,
right,
roughing it, like passionate, like just young guys, like wanting to, make something happen. And we did that for so long. And it was a blast. And then, once you turn 30 and you start having kids, I sleep on the floor in a van now. It's like, it would take me 3 weeks to recover from that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the Little Caesars diet is great in your 20s, not so great in your 30s.
Correct.
Just kind of, that was a natural progression. I think in hindsight, again, like the band thing, I loved it at the time, but I realized that my first love really was all along, like the producing of it. Like I would produce music to then go and share, and I would produce videos to go and share. And it was always about that production stage in the studio that was like propelled by playing out. But that was my home. That was like my first love, So I'm very thankful that now I get to just kind of only do that. And I don't have to leave and be on the road and travel and be away from my family. I have 3 kids now. So it's nice to just go up 12 steps to work and then come down and be around more,
Right. Was Faking Love your debut as a solo recording artist?
Yeah. In this, I'll call it the new era, right? Like I had albums before as an artist. And then when I switched to being a producer, I do all kinds of cinematic music for TV and film, like you mentioned, but like, I think my label and publisher, they were all like, what if we did something that's still your sound and cinematic, but it's a little more like mainstream, more like music, something that'd work on the radio, not something for like a movie trailer, right? Like an actual song. So that's what that was a debut of. And then COVID hit and kind of messed with some plans. But I think my plan is to eventually do more albums of music like that with different featured artists singing on it. The same way, these DJ producers have albums like DJ Khaled and Zed. You know what I mean? Like They all have albums with singers, Maren Morris or whoever, And so I think I don't do EDM music. So it's kind of just my own spin on that, I guess.
2012, you did the parody of Sexy and You Know It, and you called it Pregnant and I Know It with your wife, Angela. Your daughter, McKinley, what does she think of that now, seeing that? What does she have to be now, 9, 10 by now?
She just turned 10. Yes, that video was hilarious. Because back when that actually hit, man, that was like before, all these parody videos would go viral on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. Like it was like one of the first ones. So it was kind of nuts for us. We just did I was doing all kinds of funny videos, and that one, for whatever reason, took off, and we were on all the local news stations in Grand Rapids and Good Morning America, like talked about it. It was like really insane. And my poor wife, like she never wants to be on video because it's like, she's just really introverted and doesn't like, the spotlight. And so that the one time she agrees to be on video, of course, she's like dancing on national television with a pregnant belly. And all of her friends back from high school, they're all texting her like, Angela, is that you? Like, it was like horrifying for her, but she was a good sport. I mean, she thinks it's hilarious,
What's your daughter think of it these days?
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like they're not, my kids, they just watch it and they just think, oh, that's silly. But I don't think they realized like that it was this big thing for, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For mom to do. And it was on TV. I don't think they really realize it.
Tommee, was your break from music to movie trailers in 2014 after signing with Capitol and then going to that TV film songwriting camp? Was that what kicked it all off for you?
That was it. Actually, yeah, I signed with Capitol as a writer with Nate, who, is the artist NF. We were just buddies from Michigan. We did some work together that got him signed, and then they kind of signed me along, as well. And they were just kind of putting me in a bunch of rooms with different writers and artists, and be like, what's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? Figuring me out as a musician and a writer so they could pair me with the best, mm-hmm. sessions. And randomly one day, man, they were just like, hey man, you want to write for this TV film camp we have going? Like where you get to write for movie trailers. And that was like my dream come true. And they didn't know it when they offered it. And so I just like dove in and made a song, and it landed in a Will Smith trailer a couple months later. And that was so addicting, I think, for me, because that was my dream to see my music in a trailer. So I just pretty much poured all my energy into that ever since. It was kind of something like I always knew I wanted to do that. I just didn't know those doors would open. So as soon as I got the chance, it was like, I want this door to stay open. I'm going to, full steam ahead here. And so, yeah, dude, that's probably been the most exciting, like huge blessing for me in my career, is just having that door open and getting to make music for that genre, I guess you could say, Was your first placement in TV Scream, the TV series? Is that the first one you had for television? Actually, no. I think online it says that. My first placement ever actually was the show Quantico that was on ABC?
Oh yeah.
Me and a guy named Sam Tenez, we wrote a song called Glass Heart, and it was that was during that first TV film camp as well. We did a song, and then actually 5 days later, it got placed in the promo for that new show, Quantico. This was like before Quantico came out. So it was like the new summer, show that they were promoting, and it aired during the NBA finals, which was exciting for me because I watched the NBA. And it ran for like 3 or 4 months promoting that show. And so I kind of got to see that side of it, like the TV show promo and this movie trailer all within, a couple months. And it was just, it was super cool and fun for me to experience that,
Where did the idea come from for you to decide to do the cover of Linkin Park's track In the End that you have got over 50 billion streams worldwide? The song, people, if you haven't heard this song, A, I don't know where you've been. And B, I got to tell you, that song for me is addicting. I get onto that, Tommee, and it'll go on repeat. It's just something the way you did. But where did that idea come from?
Oh man, that is crazy. That's one of the craziest, most unexplainable stories of, my whole life, really, as far as why did that do a thing and not other things, you know what I mean? Like you can't plan, but here's the story that not a lot of people know. Remember when they did a Power Rangers movie? Yeah. 4 or 5 years ago, it was a live action Power Rangers movie. And they asked people to make 90s covers for that movie, just for the trailer. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, I've always loved that In the End song, like by Linkin Park. I'm like, what if I did like a trailer version of it? And I actually originally did that version or that song with NF. We did a version of in the end. And then it didn't make the trailer for Power Rangers. And I was like, hey, I want to kind of put this out. And he was like, well, I don't know if I want to put this out. I was like, hey, I'll just put someone else on it if you don't mind. He's like, yeah, just get someone. So I called my friend Flurry. She sang the chorus. And then my friend Justin, who is Young Youth is his name. He recorded, the rap verses on it. And then it went nuts instantly, like this movie trailer version. But then here's the other part of it. A few months later, maybe 6 months later, this kid from, I think he's from Russia. His name's, Melon G is his remixer name, I guess. He took the song, like Our Master, and he put hip hop drums over Flurry's chorus. And then that version also took off and went crazy. It went nuts online. It went super viral around the world. And so those two versions just kind of, they live separate, but together in a way. And that kid, he was 17 years old, Melon G at the time or something like that. Hadn't really done anything in music. He was probably a kid in his basement like I was,
Mm-hmm.
And that thing just took off like crazy. And especially that remix that we didn't ask him to even do that. You know what I mean? He just kind of did it. But since it was Our Master, it was kind of like, okay, well, we need to figure out a way to share this like new master that you created and just put online. Right. So we kind of, we figured all that out, but now it's gone on. And like you said, it has 57 billion something around the world or whatever. Like I don't know how to comprehend that number even. It's just, you just say it and it means nothing now. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I played a clip this past weekend for my niece. She was asking me who I was getting ready to have on the show, and I mentioned your name. And she said, do I know him? And I said, well, I'll guarantee you know this song. So I hit play, and she took my phone, and she goes, oh, that's on TikTok. That's everywhere. So
I know it's one of the biggest songs on TikTok ever now. And I'm like, what is happening? Because I think of the 57 billion, close to 50 billion of that is TikTok.
Wow.
And it's 7 billion on other streaming platforms. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, it's just so bizarre to me that something would just take off like that online or Instagram Reels and TikTok and all that,
You've talked a couple times about NF. Talk about how you guys became friends, collaborated, how your friendships evolved. His first 4 LPs debuted at #1, the Billboard Christian Album Chart, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, well, he had a friend I think his friend was in high school, that randomly emailed me his independent album that he recorded up in Gladwin, Michigan. And I think it was like a cold email, like just, hey, you do music and you're in Michigan, listen to my friend, right? It wasn't like, anything more than that. And I was traveling that same weekend when he sent it to me, and I played it for my band in the car, and we were all like, wow, this kid's like pretty good. Like we should do something with him or whatever. So I sent him a beat, and it was like this cinematic beat with strings. And it was really, it's really bad now when we listen to it. But at the time he was like, man, this beat is so sick. I want to, this is awesome. And so we actually recorded a song together, where he raps and then I sang with my friend Brooke actually on the song. And then we just that was like our introduction. That was probably 2010, 2011, something like that. And then we kind of stayed in touch for a few years. And then randomly he hit me up when he was going to be in town in Grand Rapids. And I had just built that studio in my basement that I told you about. And so I was like, yeah, man, come see the new studio. We can hang out or whatever. And we recorded a song that night, and the song we recorded that night was called Wake Up, which was the song that led to him getting signed, and that ended up being on his first album as well. So it was kind of, I don't know, he's just this super loyal guy who has a small circle, right, that works with him, and he just was adamant about continuing to work with me to the label after he got signed, which I wasn't expecting. really. I was like, I kind of viewed it as like, oh, I'm happy for my friend. I'm passing him off now to the music industry. Go and do great things. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't see I didn't even see myself being a part of that journey. Like maybe ignorance or whatever, but he was like, no, man, like I want us to keep working together. We work well together. And, we ended up really figuring out his sound over the next 2 or 3 albums. And, now he has, 5 full albums. We're always working on more music together. So it's been an awesome journey, watching your friend, he's now become one of my best friends in my entire life. He's like family. You know what I mean? I joke about this, but I'm actually like, it's actually true. I see him more than I see my wife. Like I spend more time with him just because it's like, man, for months, sometimes it's every day, all day long. We're working in the studio. And then, you know what I mean? Like I come down and have dinner and go to bed. It's like, I see Nate more than I see my wife, Angela, a lot of times,
Well, the partnership is obviously working and still working. So I can see why he still wants to collaborate with you and you with him. So hopefully it continues to grow and keep going. You've spoke a few times about cinematic, and you have 6 volumes of cinematic songs. Again, over 50 billion global lifetime streams. Where did this creativity to make these big sounds and big music come from?
I don't know. I mean, I'm really influenced by, late 90s, early 2000s movie scores that I used to listen to in my car driving to school. Like I would listen to like, the Gone in 60 Seconds soundtrack and the Deep Blue Sea soundtrack. And then like Transformers with Steve Jablonsky and Trevor Rabin, those guys. Like this was like before really Hans Zimmer was like known as he is now, really, So I listened to some of those soundtracks, but I'm not like this super big score soundtrack guy. It was more like the trailer music, which is completely different, right? The movie, the music that's in the trailer, like Immediate Music back in the day was the one group who like, they did all the trailers, like the first Spider-Man movie trailer ever with, Tobey Maguire. Like I was like, what is that song? And I found it online and like, I was hooked on that kind of epic string and choir, bombastic percussion hits, all that stuff. And so I just listened to that stuff all the time. And so I guess maybe that's kind of where some of it came from, but other parts of it, like I just always had that in me as far as like the music I was making when I was 12. Like I always just wanted it to be dramatic or emotional. You know what I mean? Like I've always just liked that it's resonated with me personally. And so that's why I make it now, because I enjoy it.
It's one of those things where you listen to it and then you want to listen to it again and turn it up because you need to increase the volume to get the full effect. Yes. Especially if I'm in my car. If I'm in my car, I got to turn it up.
It's so funny you say that, because I always wish I could tell everyone like this music, these albums, these cinematics, volumes or whatever, like all of this music is meant to be listened to loud. And I wish I could like put that, back in the day, you could put that on the inside of the packaging of the cover of the CD or whatever. Now it's like, it's all digital. So I don't know. You put it in the title track of the song in parentheses, listen loud at the end of it.
Right. You definitely need to. I wish
everyone listen at full volume. That's how you feel that kind of music. It's not background music.
No, 100% you got to feel it. This is my story. No symptoms to being diagnosed with colon cancer, which led to 4 surgeries and a 50-50 survival rate. It then spread to my liver, in which only 3% are caught in time. Now, a 1% chance it ever comes back. And I'm on the road to inspiring everyone, because you have 3 choices: live, die, or fight. Bernie Siegel said, no matter what the statistics say, there's always a way. To book me, Tommee Canale, to speak to your event or group, go to TommeeCanale.com. That's TommeeCanale.com. and get ready to be inspired to inspire others, because you're one day away from changing your life. Tommee, the song that you did, The Warriors, with Stephen Malcolm, has been in The Challenge, Titan Games, and All-American. Can you talk about the creativity you did on that song?
Yeah, me and Stephen Malcolm are both Golden State Warriors fans. And so we were like, hey, we should make a song that could maybe be used in like the playoffs or something for the Warriors. And it never was, but it was, that's what I like about this stuff. It's like, you never know where it's going to go or where it could be used. And it could be used more than once in different things. And so even though it wasn't used specifically for the Golden State Warriors, it was used, you know, in those shows that you talked about. And it's actually, I think it was just used this past weekend in a UFC promo as well. So like, you know, that the song's just kind of, you know, that song is probably 4 years old, and then randomly someone will want to use it in some trailer or promo that you're not expecting, you know what I mean? So that's what's fun about it. But that's where that came from. We specifically were like, let's go on the nose with it and actually call it Warriors. You know what I mean? So that was a super fun one to write.
Great track. I love it. How long were you working on the 2020 release of The Birth of a King LP with tracks that include Oh Holy Night, What Child Is This, and O Come, Emmanuel? Yeah.
Well, that album took me 6 months to make it, to like record it. But I've wanted to make a big Christmas album since 2005. It literally was on my list for 15 years. And it's actually like not an exaggeration. Like actually 2005 is when I was like, I had these ideas. And actually one of the songs on there, I arranged back in 2005. So like, that was the first one. And I was like, man, and over the years I wrote little choruses and little parts. And I knew that someday, you know, I'd figure it all out, you know, and it would all come together. And I didn't know exactly what it would look like, you know, but then I actually tried to start that album every year since 2013. And I never had time. I always had too much on my plate, and it would come to like November and I'd be like, oh, it's too late now. I'll do it next year. So for 7 years I said, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And then finally it actually took like a worldwide quarantine for me to have time to myself where no one was coming in. You know what I mean? Like that's what happened. COVID hit. Everyone was like 30 days. No one's leaving the house. That was probably March or something like that.
Right. It was.
So I was like, I'm going to start that Christmas album and I'm going to do it this month. That's what I thought. And then it turned into a much larger thing where, you know, it ended up being a 6-month project with 17 different artist collaborations. And that was probably my favorite project I've ever worked on in my life. Probably always will be, just because a 15-year buildup, like there's nothing else brewing now like that, where, you know, for 10 years I've been dreaming of something and maybe I'll get to it in another 5 or 10. Like that was the one big thing I wanted to do.
It's really good. It's another LP. Listeners, when you go click on it, increase your volume a little bit and it'll resonate with you some more. Matter of fact, just increase the volume on any of the music that of Tommee's that you play.
Yes, thank you. Finally.
The song that you did in 2021, Silent Night with Flurry, was that a holdover from the album, or you just didn't have room to put it on, or did the idea come back to you later?
No, that's on the album from 2020. We just did a music video the year after.
Okay.
So my plan, you know, because Christmas music, it's so weird, man. Like the listening window for Christmas is so small, right? It's short, I should say, but then it comes back every year. And so my plan with that album is to just keep growing that story. So I released it in 2020 with 2 music videos. And then last year, for 2021, we did 3 music videos. So then this year, you know, we'll do a couple more music videos. I'm planning on doing a few music videos every year for the next 5 years, just to keep bringing it back up.
Sure.
And, you know, I have a few other plans I'm excited about, just to keep rejuvenating the Christmas album, you know, to keep it relevant, I guess.
How many hours a day do you spend working on your craft?
Between 10 and 12.
I thought you were going to say 14, 15, 16 hours a day.
I used to. Currently, I finally know what's, I've found balance, I should say, for the first time in my life, which feels good. I'm shocked to hear myself say this. Years ago, I would not think this would be possible. But yeah, like, I think, I have a family. Like, I eat dinner with my family every night.
Awesome.
Like, get my kids down for bed every single night. I don't work weekends. Hardly ever now. I used to, though, like, when we were traveling in the band, I was gone almost every weekend of the year and all summer long, and then recording all night after my other jobs or whatever I was balancing and juggling at the time. So I feel like I really wanted to learn, a good balance of 10 to 12 hours Monday through Friday, still enough time for me to get it out, right. Whatever I have, to get out, but to also, like, respect family time and my wife and my marriage, and, like, just, balance overall, get enough sleep for the first time in my life as well.
You have over 250 sync placements in movie trailers, TV promos, video games, every major network, plus ESPN, NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, NCAA, NASCAR, Netflix, Hulu, Mountain Dew, Under Armour, Nike, and then shows like Prison Break and 24, movies like The Rookie, Hunger Games, and the list is so long. Is that surreal to you?
I mean, when you put it like that, yeah, it is weird. Like, I don't, they happen one at a time. So, I don't really see that full list all the time, but, yeah, I think it is. Like, to this day, I'm being genuine right now. Like, to this day, the most exciting thing for me as far as a creative in the music industry is getting those emails that say, this show or this movie wants to use the song in this promo or this trailer, and it airs on this date. And, like, watching how these different places use those songs, like, that's still more exciting to me than a number one Billboard album or number one top 40 radio song. Like, those are just never things that I actually, like, set out to accomplish as goals, or to achieve. Like, those just kind of happened. So I'm thankful for those, but, like, really my goal and my dream was the TV and film thing, which is, I'm just super grateful for that. You know what I mean?
You've obviously found a way to continue to stay in that mark, because the list keeps going. The platinum singles, the gold singles, platinum albums, gold albums. Folks, there's over 800,000 people on his YouTube channel. You got to go there, and the millions of monthly subscribers on platforms across the streaming networks like Spotify. So if you haven't checked him out, there's going to be plenty of links in the show notes to do so. Tommee, you did the cover of Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol, which was used for the 400th episode of Grey's Anatomy, which is kind of weird because I don't see that song going to Grey's Anatomy. I don't watch Grey, so I don't get it, but that song is really good. I love the song.
Well, that's actually what's funny about that is me and Flurry, who I did that song with also, we do a lot of music together. The TV film stuff we've done has just worked really well, and so we have a great partnership there. We're working on a project right now that song is going to be on. And so we were working on all these songs, and I had finished Chasing Cars, like the track and the mix and all that, and I sent it to her. And the next day, Grey's Anatomy actually reached out and said, hey, we're looking for covers of these songs. And they sent a list. And one of the songs on the list was Chasing Cars. And we were like, well, that's weird. We literally just finished one yesterday. So we should throw it in the hat and see what happens. So we sent that song, and then they loved it, and they ended up using it in the show. And what I didn't know, because like you, I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, I knew nothing about it. Apparently that song is like a big part of the show. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
I didn't know that. So I was just like, oh, cool, Chasing Cars. Apparently that song is like tied to the show hand in hand so tightly. And the show had a part in even making that song blow up, I guess, at the time or something. I could be getting some of these details wrong, but all these iconic moments throughout the show's seasons in the past, death scenes and all these moments, used the original Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. And it was like this big thing. And so apparently, from what I'm seeing from feedback, is that this was the first time it like broke that curse of like these bad, super dramatic, horrible things happening. And it was more of like a positive, like flashback, moving on kind of thing or something like that. So it resonated with Grey's fans like crazy. And I didn't even know at the time that show had any connection to the song, but that was cool that, you know, the timing literally lined up perfectly like that.
Have you done music for the Oscars and any of the Olympics as well?
Yes.
Both?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we actually had the promo for the Oscars this year, the 2022. The Oscars heard around the world, you know, the most infamous Oscars ever. They used me and Nicole Serrano. She's a good friend of mine. We did a cover of With Arms Wide Open by Creed.
Yeah.
But it's like a very like triumphant orchestral version. And they used that song in the Oscars promo. And then the Olympics, they've used it in some promos for the Olympics, as well as some of the athletes in the Olympics have performed to some of our songs. You know what I mean? Gymnasts and figure skaters, right? Stuff like that.
That is outstanding. Is there one person or group that you want to collaborate with that you haven't yet?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Like, I don't think about that a lot. I think if I could collaborate with anyone, I Imagine Dragons would be one that'd be fun. You know, Justin Bieber, I think that'd be sick to do a song with him. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many talented people. Like for me, it's not about the artist as much, like the name or, you know, their craft. It's more about like when I collaborate with people, I think about their voices and as instruments, like the tones of them.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like for the Christmas album, every single song on that album, I had an artist in mind when I made the track and when I made that version of the song. So it tailored to like them as a voice, right? As an instrument. And then I made it all without even asking any of them. I just kind of had like them in mind. And then thankfully, man, every single person that I originally had in mind said yes. So like we got like every one. I didn't have any like second options or plan Bs, but that's like how I view them. Like, you know, Flurry, for example, has this soft, whispery tone that like for some songs, no one else could do it like that.
Agree.
You know what I mean? And then other people, you know, these guys with these super high tenor voices and they're soaring and like they make that song because of their tone and the music and like the way it all goes together. So like creating those moments, it's really like I really specifically pick out voices based on, you know, even if someone's just a good singer, but like I wouldn't know what to do with that voice, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, so I get ideas when I hear people's voices. And actually I've been getting more ideas from people on like TikTok and Instagram. You know, there's so many musicians doing their thing now. Mm-hmm. I've reached out to a couple of them and we're going to collab on some stuff. And like, I hear these, some of them are like young kids at home that are so talented. They're so freaking good. And I hear their voice and I instantly think of a cover idea or a song idea or something. And I'm like, man, we should collaborate on something because I hear it as soon as I hear their voice. You know what I mean? So that's what excites me, I think, the most is when I hear their voices.
Is it fair to say then, by just what you said, that you may have a small addiction to sound libraries?
You've heard that somewhere, I'm sure, because I say that in almost every interview. I always say sound libraries that's my chronic addiction in life is just, but man, like, I'll tell you, like, I go through so many sounds and like, that's what inspires me also, you know, on the track side, the music side, like going through new sounds and hearing something that will depict how I play or what melody I come up with based on the sounds, you know what I mean? So there was one thing I would tell people to invest in, it'd be sound libraries.
Do you hear something or get a creative idea and go, I have that from 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I think this might work?
I honestly don't really keep tracks around that long.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I usually use something, or I just know I probably won't use this because chances are what I make now is not what I would have made 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Which is not what I make now won't be what I'm making in 5 years. Like just little tweaks that other people wouldn't notice, but I would maybe. So yeah, I think it's really hard to get inspired on something that's so old track wise for me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like once I'm making a track, I need to do something with it now, or revisiting it is just going to be kind of dreadful. That's just the way I am though.
From talking to you, you can hear the amount of love you have for your job, the amount of fun that you have doing what you do. But can you ever imagine not doing what you're doing?
No. I think no, not at all. I think that's why I was so passionate about it all those years, and like sleeping in the van and eating the pizza, and me and my wife, like, man, we were so poor, and like, I tell this story too. Like we used to wash our clothes in the bathtub to save quarters at the laundromat. Like we were just super super strict on our budget, no extra money. But I was like going off and I had this big dream, and my wife is just unbelievably amazing and supportive. And like, I remember one time she asked me like, is this like, is this going somewhere? Cause this is really, she was nice about it. She was like, this is like tough and we're in it and we're doing it. But like, how long are we going to do this? Like, is it going somewhere? Is it heading somewhere? What's the plan? And I was like, I promise you, like, I have a plan like this, just give it some time. Like, we're not always going to do our laundry in the bathtub. I promise, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I could not do anything else. Like I wouldn't be able to, I just, since I was a kid, like, when I was 7, I got that keyboard. Like I just instantly like became so addicted to it. That's all I could ever see myself doing. And I think I would just, it's my purpose. I feel like I would feel just, completely dead inside. That's like who I am, is like creating this stuff. And now I also realize a lot of people feel that way and don't have the opportunity to do that. And so every day I have a buddy of mine, his really good friend, his name's Daniel St. Black. He's an artist as well. And he tells me that his motto in life is entitled to nothing and grateful for everything. And I'm like, man, like I've adopted that as well. Cause I'm like, that's like what I've been trying to say. And you so eloquently put it in 6 words concisely. Like nothing is owed to us. Like some people are super talented and work really hard and the doors just don't open, and so we're just grateful for every single opportunity we get. It could be taken away just as much as it was given. And so we're just grateful and humble about, every single TV placement or song on the radio, whatever it is, like celebrate those moments and just be grateful for them, because they're not guaranteed and they won't last forever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Listeners, go to the show notes. I'm going to put a link to his website, TommeeProfitt.com. It's TommeeProfitt.com. Check out his merch. Also, go check out How I Made Videos section. And once you get on there, click around, you'll enjoy the website. Let's wrap up the show with this. Outside of music, what else is there in your life besides your family? I understand you have a love of magic as well, but what else do you have that you enjoy besides music?
Oh man, magic. That's funny. I used to be almost as passionate about street magic as I am music. Back when I was, probably like late 90s when David Blaine was really coming on the scene, you know what I mean? Doing his specials, like card street magic. But honestly, like besides music, like I just love watching movies. I love going to the movie theater. So I'm basically always in a dark room is what I'm trying to say. I go from one dark place to another. I'm very much indoorsy, as you would say. I don't see the sun often. I love watching movies, being inspired by that. I've been reading more lately, which has really been fun for me. I don't have tons of time to read, but I'll just read a chapter at night or something of a book, or, doing whatever. And that's pretty much it. Like, I feel like I'm keeping it more simple these days, whittling down, you know what I mean? Maybe that's just what happens when you get older, or I don't know. I mean, but I just like a few things that bring me lots of joy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your work week and your schedule and coming on the show, man. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, no, it's been a blast. Appreciate you having me.
Listeners, go follow me on Instagram at Before the Lights Podcast and go to the website, beforethelightspod.com. That's beforethelightspod.com. Click on the bundles tab to get yourself those bundles of the extra 5. Thank you for listening to Before the Lights. I'm Tommee Canale. And until next time, everybody, I salute a chin chin.